Hey, welcome back to another episode of The High Ticket Woman. I'm your host, Debbie Caudle, therapist, coach, and absolute believer in the essential work of your marriage and personal transformation. This is the podcast where we talk about what it means to love well and live intentionally and build relationships that bloom from the inside out. So, whether you're married or single or somewhere in between, this is your space to find hope, healing, and truth for the journey. So, today, because that's what we do here, I've brought on, you know what, Rafi? I never asked you how to pronounce your last name. My bad.
Do I do that now?
Yeah, let's do it.
Go ahead, ask me.
Okay. Is it Rafi Bilek?
Close. It rhymes with coffee acrylic. That's my name.
Rafi Bilek.
Yeah, there we go. I see.
I don't want this to be edited out. I want people to know that, you know what, we're just genuine people here. And sometimes
Did we tell them we scripted this whole thing?
we totally did not script this. So, Rafi Bilek, you know, guys, everybody listening, we literally just met like 6 minutes ago. So, Rafi is a marriage counselor and he's the author of the book, The Couples Communication Handbook, The Skills You Never Learned for the Marriage You Always Wanted. Sounds like we need to know what he has to say. And his whole goal is to help couples around the world learn better communication skills to make their relationship awesome. So, Rafi, welcome to The High Ticket Woman.
Thank you so much for having me.
I'm super excited that you're here. Okay, so Rafi, let's jump in. I know you spent over a decade helping couples communicate better. So, what first drew you to doing this? And how did your own marriage shape the way that you approach this today?
Ooh, good question. Okay, how did I find myself here? It was pretty accidental. I didn't have a plan. I was a computer science major in college, and I was doing that, and then I was like, it's a lot more fun talking to people than machines.
Yes.
And I took a job after college teaching kids computers. And I was like, wait a second, talking to people could be the job instead of the break between the job. I'm like, this is much better. So I ended up taking a break for a couple years after that, doing my own thing, doing some religious studies. And then I got a master's degree in social work, which seemed like the quickest option to human services. And then I started seeing clients, and I was terrible at first. I remember my first client with embarrassment. It was disastrous. But I was seeing all kinds of folks, and I was seeing clients and individuals and stuff. And over time, I just realized that what I really like is working with the couples, and what I'm really good at is working with the couples. So I drifted towards that, and now I see couples almost exclusively. And then after years and years of doing this, I find myself, there's a lot of things that we come back to over and over. And I said, I wish I could reach more people with these important messages. So first thing I did is I bought a bullhorn, and that didn't work as well as I'd hoped. So I wrote a book instead.
I know you said your marriage is the best part of your life, which is such a powerful thing to say. Why do you think it makes, why do you think that's true? And maybe you can speak a little bit about your marriage and the impact of your marriage on what you do.
Well, so it would be pretty hard to be a good marriage counselor and have a lousy marriage.
People do it all the time.
People do it. I think that when you're a therapist, to have your own therapist makes sense. If you have some kind of mental health disorder, you have anxiety, and you're working on that, and you help other people, that makes a lot of sense. When it comes to marriage counseling, there are things that I'm asking people to do, and ways I'm asking them to think, and efforts I'm asking them to make. And if I were not willing or able to make them, or if they didn't work, it would be lame to tell other people to do it. So not to say that you can't have a marriage counselor who's divorced, by the way. People learn a lot over their lives and come to different places. But if your marriage is overall lousy, it's hard to be a marriage counselor. So I put a lot of work into my marriage. I continue to put a lot of work in, but I feel bad for people who come home and there's tension and there's stress and there's issues on their mind that they have nowhere to go with. I can talk to my wife about anything. We still get mad at each other. We still get irritated, but we know we can talk about it. It's not, there's no worry. We know we'll come back and we'll deal with it. And there's just so much security and safety and comfort. Like I really have someone in my life to rely on, and I want that for other people. I want to give that to others because it's a part of who we're supposed to be.
I think that is such a game changer when you find joy and happiness in your marriage, joy being that inner state of mind and happiness. I always say happiness is the byproduct of, doing the right things, but
Yeah.
when you find that in your marriage and it really does change the way you show up for your clients, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. So you talk about having a game-changing approach to communication. I would love to hear about that. What's different about your method compared to the standard sort of listen and reflect back advice that a lot of couples get?
Uh-oh, I have to tell you, it's not that different. I do a lot of listening and reflecting. I
Well,
think
I mean, I do that's core, right? For
it's
anyone
core.
to do this work. Yeah.
I think I've packaged it in a way that is manageable. I've framed it in a way that people can hear it and do it, and I've broken it down. I don't want to claim that I'm the inventor of something entirely new. I'm standing on the shoulders of everyone who came before me and the research that's been done, and the trials that have been done. So it's not like I have a new machine that you've never heard this before. Try it now. Um, so I have a handful of ideas and frameworks, but let me tell you the basic tool that I use with people that does build on what you were saying. And it's given with an acronym called LOVE, which is probably the best acronym ever. If you ask
Luck?
LOVE, LOVE,
Love.
right? See why
Okay.
that's great.
Yeah.
It's right on the spot, right? Listen,
I already love the acronym because we're never gonna forget this word.
there you go. It's the best acronym ever. So L is for listen. O, reflect in your own words. Okay, I had to fudge the O a little bit, but it's important to scub your own words. V is validate, and E is empathize. That's the important thing that you're doing as the listener. When you are listening to your partner, those are the only things that you are doing at all. Sometimes people think, oh, you know what? My wife came to me and she has an issue. Let me try to solve this problem for her. No, no, do not do that. Right? There's a classic joke in our society about women wanting to talk and men wanting to fix it. So true, so true for a lot of couples. Not every couple, but a lot of couples. We're not solving right now. Here's another pitfall that people fall into. They try to explain. Explaining is not one of the four things I told you to do. Explaining is when you say to me, I'm mad at you because of this, and you said this, and you told me that. And I'm thinking, oh, that's not what I meant. If I would just explain to her what I meant, she wouldn't be angry because she'd know that's not what I meant. Now, everybody listening knows that they've tried this and it hasn't worked, right? Explaining to your partner what you really meant and why they shouldn't be angry does not make them less angry. You think it should, it seems logical, but it doesn't work. So stop doing it. Here's another one that you don't do right away, which is apologizing. People think that's important. Apologizing is great. It doesn't work right up front, right? You cannot solve a problem that you don't understand, and you cannot apologize for a problem you don't understand. First, you have to understand, and you do that by listening, reflecting your own words, validating, and empathizing. So let's talk a bit more what those look like, if you'd like.
Absolutely. Let's do
Okay,
it.
so listening, pretty straightforward. I listen to you, which means my phone is off, which means I'm looking at you. And it means I'm not sitting there thinking, what am I going to say next? It means I'm listening. Yeah, right. Right, because we're all doing that, right, Debbie? So so I'm listening to what you say so I can absorb what you say.
Mhm.
And then I'm going to reflect back in my own words because I want to make sure that I got it. Because we're not the same person. You and I have different brains, different ways of saying things, different ways of understanding things. I want to make sure I get it. So I'll reflect it back to you. Now, even if I am totally 100% sure that I get it, it's important for you to know that I get it. If I just say, yeah, yeah,
I
you don't
understand.
really know. If I say, you're really upset at me because I didn't put the laundry away when I said I would, then you know that I get it. And now you can relax a little bit like, okay, the message has gotten across. Very important. Validating is where I say, yeah, that makes sense. I get why you'd be upset. You have no socks today. I understand why that's upsetting. Now, I'm not agreeing with you. Like, for example, you might have more socks there that you didn't see, or I might not have agreed to put away the laundry, or whatever it is. I'm not agreeing that you're right. I'm just validating, you know what? If you have no socks, that is frustrating. If you think that I was supposed to do it and I didn't do it, that must be rough. I get it. And I'm genuinely stepping into your world and saying, that must be rough. And that's the empathizing part. I'm so sorry you feel that way. I know what it's like not to have socks, that you have a big meeting, you're running around. It's stressful. I get it. I'm so sorry that's happening to you. Again, I have not admitted to anything. I have not, accepted guilt for having done something wrong. I
Mhm.
just care that you're having this problem. And if you know that I understand your problem and I care about your problem, we are in a much better place to resolve that problem.
Absolutely. So then how does the empathizing differ from the validation?
Yes, that is a little bit of a smushy part there, and, it's tough to fully differentiate because we don't talk like that in blocks. We everything comes together, but the validating would sound like, "Oh, that makes sense." And empathizing says, "Oh, I'm so sorry that's happening to you." So validating is just communicating to you, "That makes sense to me," and empathizing is, "I care that that's happening to you." They
Mm.
tend to come together in the same sentence or the same piece.
It's like a part A and a part B.
Yeah. Yeah, and the truth is the chapter in the book on that is actually in one chapter because they're sort of attached to each other, but the
Mhm.
message is different, right? If I say like, "Oh, I'm so sorry you have the problem," but I don't really say it doesn't make sense. Like, "Well,
Mm.
I think you're crazy," but like, "Sorry you're having this tough day." Like, that doesn't quite do it for you. You need to know that I understand why the problem is a problem for you. I may not have a problem with, it being too hot in the room, but if you're too hot, that makes sense to me.
Mhm.
You feel like you're sweating, all these things. I get that. If I can say, like, look, it's really not too hot, but sucks for you. Again, it doesn't feel good to you. So we need both pieces. But again, it tends to sort of like get mushed together when you speak about it because that's how humans talk.
My husband's kind of a master at doing what you just said, and when I'm on the receiving end of him doing this, it's interesting how after he's validated and empathized and then even will say, "Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't realize that's how you felt." It kind of makes me now almost wanna reverse direction and go, "Oh, well, it's not all you, some of it's me." Do you find that with couples? Like, when you use this love acronym that the person who's on the receiving end of the love, it sort of softens them?
Absolutely. Yeah,
Yeah.
it is a huge benefit for both people. If I understand from you why you're so upset, like,
Mhm.
oh, I see things differently. And now that I understand you, so you feel better about it. You're like, you know what? He gets me. He understands. Like, it's just okay. We're in this together.
We're in this
It's just
together.
it is a huge benefit for both people to be able to do that.
Mhm. But I know there's a listener out there who's going, "Okay, well, this is all good and well, but when do I get to to give my perspective?" So I'm validating, I'm empathizing, but I'm not necessarily agreeing. At what point do I get to say, "But you're wrong."
Right.
Because you are wrong, and here's why you're wrong, or here's where I'm coming from.
Right.
Where does that fit in your communication path?
Great. So let's step back, right? Because that part that I said, that's already like well into the middle of the book. We have to talk about how we get there and how we set up the conversation. That's fine. Yeah, we're just chatting here. But for folks who need a structured approach, there's a
Mhm.
book for that. So when we come to any kind of conversation, you're upset at me, I'm upset at you, or nothing to do with us. Like I had a tough day, or I had a good day, or there's something on my mind that we have to talk about. We have to split this conversation into two. One part of it is you're going to talk to me and I'm going to listen. And the next part is I'm going to talk to you and you're going to listen. We are not going to both share our perspectives at the same time because everybody out there knows what that looks like. That looks like a game of ping pong where it just kind of escalates over and over until we start yelling at each other.
Great metaphor, I love that, ping pong, yeah.
That's what it's like. So if you have a problem, you're mad at me, or maybe you won't even say it. Like, I come home and you're kind of like, banging stuff around the counter. I say, hey, Debbie, is something wrong? Maybe you're the kind of person who says you're the kind of person who says, "No, nothing's wrong." I'm like, "Something's wrong." But in my house, that doesn't happen anymore. My wife does not pretend. She might say, "Yeah, something is wrong, but I'm not ready to talk about it." That's fine. But let's say we're ready to talk about it. So she says, "Yes, I'm annoyed about something." I say, "Okay, well, you tell me, and then I'll hear, and then we'll switch." So she tells me, she's really upset. She told me that I need to be home by a certain time, and I didn't, and she's upset about that. It's like I listen, reflect, validate, empathize. I get it. And it's hard, by the way, because I know she told me 7 o'clock, not 6 o'clock. I'm very sure about this. But I'm not arguing that point because it won't help. Because as we know, explaining just doesn't change her feelings. I don't have to agree. I say, I understand. You remember telling me to be home by 6. Here it is, 6:30. I'm not home. You're stressed. You're upset. I get it. I get that's really tough. I hate when you're stressed out. I'm so sorry that happened to you. Could I share my perspective on how things happen? So once she feels heard, then I'll ask, "Hey, could I sort of share how I feel about this?" And she says, "Yeah, yeah, I think you heard me. You get it. Thank you. I'd like to hear how you feel about it." So I say, "Okay, great." So we pass the talking stick to me, metaphorical or literal. It's a good thing to have a talking stick if you need. And I say, I really remember that you said 7 o'clock, and I feel really bad that you're upset, but it's really irritating to me to be, called on the carpet for something. I really don't think that I messed this one up. And it's really frustrating to me. So she says, yeah, then I can see why that's frustrating. You remember this and I remember this. And, here I am yelling at you for something you didn't even do that. That must be awful. So now we both feel heard, understood, loved. And here's an important point. We are not going to argue about when she said to be home. We are going to go to our graves, each believing that we're right.
I love
Pe-
this.
People seem to think that, like, we have to decide who's right. We have to set the record straight. And you don't. Because now, what's happened? We love each other. We care about each other. We're not arguing. And we know that next time we have to be extra clear about, when to be home. We'll check in with each other. We'll write it down. We'll text, whatever it's going to be. But the problem now is gone. We're going to pay attention to the problem in the future. Maybe we'll say that out loud. Is okay. So what should we do next time? Let's make sure we text each other so it's in writing. Okay, good, fine, no problem. But to spend time arguing about what actually happened is useless. It makes more fights, and eventually, maybe one of you will be able to prove that you were right. But nobody feels better after that. So a large part of the book is dedicated to helping people overcome this hump of you have to drop who was right and who was wrong and work on, hey, let's connect.
Yeah. I always say to couples, you need collaborative communication as opposed to you're on opposite sides of the room and fighting the problems in between you and you're fighting over who's right and who's wrong. I love what you're saying about you don't have to set the record straight because what you're really saying is we're going to prioritize how we talk to each other over who's right or who's wrong.
Yep.
'Cause we may never actually agree on that part, which means we're in this perpetual state of arguing, feeling misunderstood, the layers of hurt and resentment that get piled onto an unresolved, conflict, et cetera, et cetera.
One of my mentors used to say, "You can be right or you can be married."
I love that. I love that. You're giving me so many amazing gems that I'm going to totally steal. You can be right or you can be married. That's fantastic. Okay, you're known for bringing humor into serious conversations with couples. So tell me why you believe humor is such an important ingredient in healing relational marital tension.
I mean, look, it feels better, man. My wife and I are laughing all the time, mostly because of my jokes. To be honest, it's just the way it is. But like, it's a little bit. I like having fun. I like to laugh. When I'm working with couples, bringing some humor into it at the right time, in the right way, it loosens things up. Especially for first timers who are coming in. There's a lot of stress. There's a big deal to be able to loosen up and realize that this will be nothing like what you see on TV. It's helpful.
Is there a way that you do that with clients to loosen them up? Because, a lot of times, at least for me, I don't know if it's true for you, couples, they come to this point where they use a professional because their marriage is in some serious trouble, and the last thing that they feel is any humor around this.
You'd be surprised. People come in and they've got their formal face on. When they walk in the first time, that's not true. Most people are not falling apart and, they're trying to present themselves okay and think, and rational, whatever. And they understand the cultural expectations. You come in, you introduce yourself, you make a little small talk. So I try to be a little fun at first. At the end of the session, when we're wrapping things up and coming back out of the depths, I'll be a little bit more lighthearted. And then as people get to know me, we get to throw jokes around, and just be, a little, silly or sarcastic or dry or whatever it is for that person. You have to know.
This is woven in.
Yeah, yeah, but you have to, like, sort of it has to be part of you. You can't if you're not, like, a fun, funny person, you're serious and warm and connected, like, that's fine too. Bringing a book and then reading off a string of knock-knock jokes probably won't do the trick.
In other words, no canned humor. It either comes naturally to you or it doesn't.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes, at the end of my first section, I'll often ask anybody if they have any questions or any jokes. And some people will tell a joke and just, walking out with a good joke, and just, feels better.
I love that. That will never be me because I can never remember punchlines for jokes. Like, I have a fantastic memory except for punchlines. I don't know why.
You need those if you wanna make the joke work. Well,
I know the joke falls totally flat without the punchline. Okay, what in your experience, what's the single, most common communication misstep that couples make? And is there a simple way to correct it?
there's never a simple way. Life is not simple. I mean, there's simple things to do in terms of, like I said, if one person speaks at a time, that's a simple principle. Making that happen is harder because you always want to jump in. So you practice that. But the one biggest takeaway from the book that I try to tell people is take a break. Take a break. When things get heated, you are not in a place to have a good conversation. So if you're talking and people are getting edgy and tense, you say, "Hey, you know what? I don't think this is going well. I'm going to take a break." And you go calm down and you talk about it later or you come back the next day. Right? In the story I told you, the pretend story about coming home late and my wife is mad, that's actually not a realistic thing because what would happen is we would talk about it later. She's already upset about something that happened. Right. And we all want to run in when we're upset and say, we need to fix this problem. That's the worst time because you're angry and you're ramped up and you're just not going to do it well. So when
Mhm.
something happens, your husband comes home late and you told him to be home at 6 and it's now 6:30. When he walks in, you do your best to be calm and pleasant and you don't deal with it then because then you will get into a fight. And if
Mm.
you want to not get into a fight, then you wait until later, till you're calm. You say, "Hey, this is bothering me. Can we talk about it?" If you'd like to get into a fight, by all means, run into it and say, "I told you to be home at 6 and it's now 6:30." Great. You can definitely get into a fight. Cool. I don't know that that's what people want for their marriages. If you want something better for your marriage, the best thing to do is take a break. Come back to it later.
Yeah, yeah, very, very true. I always call it hitting the pause button.
Yeah.
Yeah. What about couples who have the same argument on repeat? How do they break that cycle? They're just fighting over the same stuff over and over.
Right. So, all this stuff that I've mentioned so far, these are the remedies, right? First of all, you take a break, right? It could be that your husband is just regularly late and it bothers you, right? But you know what? If he's 5 minutes late and 10 minutes late, instead of getting all worked out about it, you go, you sit, you take a break, and you realize, you know what? Okay, he's 5 minutes late on a regular basis. Like, okay, not the end of the world. If you run right in when you're upset, then it'll seem like the end of the world. But there are things that you do need to talk about. You can't just let them go. I'm not suggesting take a break and never come back to it. But when you use the approach that I'm describing, which is listening with love, LOVE, and we haven't spoken so much yet about how to be the speaker, but you're using all these approaches. So the conversation goes better. You feel heard, you feel connected, and then you can solve the problems. One of the reasons the problems don't get solved is because you don't know what you're solving. Right. The problem is not that you came home late. I could heat the lasagna back up. That's not the end of the world. The problem is nobody listens to me around here. I'm not respected. Nothing I say gets heard. Like those are the deeper. But if we don't talk about that and address that, the lasagna doesn't make a difference. So that's why we keep having the same argument over and over. We haven't addressed what's really bothering me or you. So when we get down to the deeper parts, we can address those things. And there are some things that don't have good solutions. If I have ADHD and coming home on time is difficult, then that may not get much better. But if we're talking about it and I understand how hard it is for you, and you understand how I feel guilty about it, and I'm ashamed because of my mental situation, all these things. So we're talking about it. We're loving each other. We're connected, and the problem just hurts less. There are some problems in life that don't go away, at least not quickly. If you're raising kids together, you're not going to solve the problem with little Timmy tonight.
Right.
Little Timmy has behavior issues. That is a long-term thing. And you may have arguments over and over, or you could have conversations that leave you feeling connected over and over. And that's a
Yeah.
much better approach.
Yeah. Yeah. What you're saying is there are perpetual problems in marriage, and then there are solvable or fixable problems in marriage. And there are some things as you're saying, that we just have to be able to accept won't change. I have to accept that my husband is more cluttered than me, and
Yeah.
that you can let that go, or I can turn it into a battle, every
Right.
single time.
And you can still talk about how much it bothers you
Yeah.
without putting him down. You can say, "You know what, honey, I know this is the way you are. Like, I'm just a little bit going crazy with the mess around here today." And he can, "Yeah, I know that that's really rough for you, and I'm sorry that's happening to you." And like, yeah, and we feel good with each other, right?
Yeah.
That it may not change. Like he might be, there might be a bar to how clean he's going to be. He is, after all, a man.
Ooh. Yeah, no, we have arrived at a compromise with this. He gets to keep his office/second bedroom however he wants it until we have a house guest.
There you go.
And then it goes back to my standard.
But you see,
So, yeah, we live very peaceably that way.
there you go. But see here, you're pointing to an interesting, a deeper issue again. Like you could argue about how clean it is or should be, but there's another issue going on for you, which is that you might say to him, which is, when your room is messy and we have a guest, I feel embarrassed,
Mhm.
right? I feel uncomfortable, and I'm worried how they're going to look at me and all that stuff, which he may not have had any idea. Right? He might think that it's totally fine, and he may not have that sensitivity to how other people perceive him. And so, if you don't sit down and listen carefully to each other, you don't know what's actually under the surface.
Yeah, and more than anything, I'm worried about trip hazards. I
Yeah,
don't
there you go. Like,
like
I'm concerned about other people tripping. Like, now, he may think that you're being overcautious, right? But that doesn't matter. He needs to hear that's a stress for you. You're worried about that, and
Yeah,
it might not be that hard for him to take care of it. Or again, there are people who it's very hard to organize, very hard to put things away. So you might have to understand that, and then we could come to a solution together after everybody feels like their partner has heard and understood them.
yeah, I love that. Okay, what about you and your wife? Is there an example of a communication challenge that the 2 of you faced, and how did you work through it using your own tools?
I mean, we do this all the time. Things happen all the time that we get irritated about. It's not like a good marriage is not one that has few mistakes. It's one that has a lot of repairs, right?
Absolutely, yeah.
So I'm
Can
trying.
you say that one more time? I think it bears repeating.
A good marriage is not one that has few mistakes. It's one that has a lot of repairs.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, couples argue and fight. We argue sometimes. We don't yell at each other anymore. We don't call each other names, but we disagree and we're upset with each other. I'm
mhm,
just trying to remember. We just the oh, you know what it was? We went on a walk. It was like yesterday, and we did this. We did exactly what I'm describing here, and I was upset because it was the night before we were supposed to sort of close the doors from the kids and go and sit and talk and have some adult time. And comes like 10. It was like 10:08 tonight, and she was chatting with the kids, and I was very frustrated. And okay, fine. So I didn't talk about it then. I told her I was upset, and I was going to sleep. We didn't get time to talk, and she knew I was upset, and that was okay. And the next morning, we thankfully had some time, and we went for a walk. And I said, "Look, this is what bothers me about it. I really thought this." And the truth is, we both learned so much. So she understood why I was upset. And then when I heard her, she's like, "I didn't realize that you thought that we were going to the bedroom at 10 o'clock to talk. I said this and that, and like I didn't." And so she never realized I was waiting for her. Right,
wow.
so, rightly or wrongly, again, it doesn't matter who was right about what was said, but, like, I thought she was coming, I was frustrated, and that's real. She didn't know she was expected, and here I am mad at her, like, "Hey, that's unfair." And so, again, who's right and who's wrong doesn't matter. We both hurt each other, and I said, "Yeah, that must be very frustrating for me to be mad at you, and you don't even know what happened." Got it.
You know what I hear in you giving this example, um, are the assumptions.
Yep,
I mean, so many couples are stuck in these patterns of defensiveness and even worse, the sarcasm and then the contempt that comes into play because of the assumptions.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, you don't know what's in my head until you ask me. You
Until you
think you do.
ask, yeah.
Sometimes you're right, but you cannot know what's in my head until I tell you. I think that's repeated in the book a couple times. You don't know what's in my head until I tell you.
Yeah.
And that's important both ways because I might think like if I might be in the listener's position and I might think I get what's going on for you, but until you tell me, I don't know. And I might be the speaker, sort of sharing with you what's bothering me. And I thought that you knew why this would bother me. Of course that would bother me. And you didn't know. You don't know what's in my head. But isn't it obvious? No, it's not. It's not obvious until you tell them.
Is there a way for you to know? when a couple has, broken down communication, that there's a bigger problem there than just trying to win a point?
There's almost always a bigger problem there. Why are
Mhm,
they trying to win a point? I am angry. I am embarrassed about this. I am worried about our future. I'm worried about little Timmy and how he's going to do. I don't feel secure in this marriage. There's all kinds of things that are going on.
yeah.
Yeah, I was working with a client where there was a big problem that came up independent of them, just sort of external to their circumstances. And they came and they wanted to start talking about, okay, what are we going to do with this? I said, whoa, 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 whoa. Let's talk about how you feel about where things are right now. And I had to help her. It wasn't just a communication thing. She felt worried saying these things because she in part blamed him for the situation. Not
Mhm.
fully, but she thought maybe he has some responsibility, and she was nervous to say it because maybe he'd be upset or angry and they'd get into an argument. So yes, the communication was the first thing, like, how do we talk about this? But just the problem was she feels insecure. She worries that she can't say certain things in this marriage. Like, wow, that's a problem.
That's a
And
big
that's what we have to
yeah.
talk about. Let's start there.
Mhm. Yeah, I love that. I think we should also maybe touch on the emotional languages, I guess this goes into some of Gary Chapman's love language stuff. Do you I'm sure you see this when you work with couples that they just seem to speak completely different emotional languages.
Sure. So when we're talking about the communication, right? The five love languages is great in terms of what we do and how we interact. When it comes to communication, sure, I don't know if anybody has laid out the different styles of communication. At the end of the day, I cannot assume that I know what you are saying and what you mean by this. People often mean different things. This also came up. In the couple that I was talking about, they had a different definition of the word cuddle. He said, "Yeah, but we cuddled this week." She said, "No, we didn't." It turns out for him, cuddle meant like a hug. At first, cuddle meant like snuggling in bed. Okay, so we could just be using the same words differently.
Mhm.
So when you talk to me, I try to understand, and that's why reflecting is so important. Okay, so you're mad at me because this is well, no, I'm not mad. I'm just kind of like, peeved. Okay, so you're kind of like mildly upset. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Right. When I reflect back to you and you know that I got it, it doesn't matter how you speak. I am trying to get into your world. I'm not applying my yardstick to it. I'm trying to understand what your yardstick looks like so I can understand what's going on for you.
Yeah. And we haven't talked about nonverbal communication through all this, but that's so key too, right? Like I'm even aware of that as I'm talking sometimes to Jeff, I'm thinking, Debbie, I wonder if he thinks you seem really intense right now. And if he's interpreting that intenseness in a negative way. I actually haven't stopped to ask him. I don't know why. I haven't taken the thought from my head and actually verbalized it. But I'm assuming that you work with couples in that realm too. Like, hey, it's not just the words that you say, it's how you say them, it's what your facial expression is saying, it's what your body posture is saying. And you can say all the right words, but you're sending a very different message through the nonverbal.
Uh, I have seen that when people are genuine about what they're saying, the nonverbals follow along, right?
Mm,
If you're saying things are good, but things are bad, and the body language communicates that, you're not being honest with what's going on. And I don't mean that in a negative way, but sometimes people say something, they're like, "Yeah, yeah, you got it." Like it's interesting. You don't really seem like you feel heard and understood. And they'll pause and they'll think, and then they'll realize what's actually going on. So, and I do this when I'm talking to my wife, and I advise people can do this on their own. If you're listening and the other person, you say that you're not angry, but you do kind of seem angry. Like you're all like tense and stuff. Like I'm not sure what's going on. And if I'm genuinely trying to understand, it's not an accusation. It's just you seem angry. So being, calling out what you see in a collaborative way, being honest about how you feel. So the nonverbals follow. If the nonverbals are not in line with the verbal, so we have to explore that. Like, what's going on?
yeah. So would you say that the nonverbal is sort of like the litmus test of what the person actually really truly thinks and feels?
Yeah, I mean, it's very revealing.
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
again, if you are communicating genuinely, there shouldn't be a disconnect. And when you see a disconnect, good, that's an interesting clue. Like,
Yeah.
you're saying this matters a lot to you, but you seem like all sort of like chilled out on the couch. It doesn't seem like this is important. So there seems to be a discrepancy, like what I'm sort of perceiving, what you're telling me. Help me understand what's going on here. I'm not accusing you. You don't mean it. You're lying to me. That doesn't, that's not good communication, obviously.
Yeah. I love that. As we wrap up here, Ruffy, is there like, if someone was coming to you today, what would be like the first thing that you would have them do to begin to transform the communication in the marriage?
Yep, back to the timeout. That's a critical thing. I think there are so many couples who could do fine with their communication if they were just calm enough to do it. They're articulate people, they're bright people, but we run in where with our emotions blaring. So, the front of the brain is shut down, the back of the brain is lit up, and you're trying to run away from a saber-toothed tiger. Like it's just, that's what our brains are here to do. Um, for so many people, that's where it starts. Go calm yourself down. It's okay. You don't have to solve it right now. A lot of people are like, oh, but I like to solve the problem right away. Yeah, great, but you can't. But you
Right.
can't. So don't. You have that's the most important thing for people trying to get their communication dialed in. Take a break, come back to it later.
Get out of fight or flight mode.
Yep.
Oh, this has really been really great. And you and I are very, very aligned in how we work with clients. So I love that. How can listeners find more about how to work with you and get your book?
So all the goodies are at thecommunicationbook.com.
E is in Victor.
The like the the communicate
Oh,
because it's the communication book. Um, so
thecommunication.com,
thecommunicationbook.com.
book.com. Yeah. The
PAG.
one that everybody needs.
No,
Thecommunicationbook.com.
you're right. So, people who have not yet been convinced that this is the book they need, the first 2 chapters are free on that website. There's a PDF, there's an audio version. If you like hearing me talk, there's 7 hours and 29 minutes of that on the audiobook version. So you can get that. It's all on Amazon. The link is at the communication book. I'm also, on Instagram and Facebook, but, I'm just like I'm a little bit too old to really know what I'm doing with social media. So you get some clips of me talking there, and you can check
Hard
those out.
what?
I'm just on the upper cusp of, like, knowing what I'm doing. I'm not a digital native, so I get help with my social media stuff, but there's good clips from all these podcasts that I post and tips, and there's a newsletter that goes out from the website people can sign up for. Yeah, and people who need, individual consultation, need some help, feel free to reach out to me there.
Same website. Same
You have the
website.
website, best way to reach me, and I'm happy to help. That's what I do, and I'm just trying to get the message out.
Okay. Really, really cool. So everybody, it's thecommunicationbook.com. Go listen to the first couple chapters and then grab his book. It's not often that I work with somebody or interview somebody that just has really tangible, practical steps for how to change your marriage. And whenever whenever I can feature somebody on this podcast who has that, I'm happy to say, go get their stuff. Go work with them. It's really great. Rafi, thank you so much for being here. I really
Thanks for having me. I am always looking for opportunities to spread the word about how to do this well and, have people just have the marriages they're looking for.
I love it. I love it. All right, everybody. Thanks for spending time with us here today. If you enjoyed this episode, please reach out to Rafi and please also subscribe to The High Ticket Woman. Leave a quick review, share it with someone that you love. Your support is important. It means everything and it helps more couples find hope and truth and encouragement. And who doesn't need more of that? And if you're ready to see your marriage not just survive, but truly bloom, I'd love for you to visit my website, debbiecaudle.com/marriage in bloom. Because remember, transformation begins when you stop waiting for things to change and you start tending the garden that God's already given you. So remember, you don't have to be perfect. You just have to stay teachable. See you next week.